Hey, what is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with an exciting video here on the overview of the Big Apocalypse versus Baby Apocalypse investment, but as well being one of the few content creators that have gotten through the global section now with my Baby Apocalypse. I do have the receipts to validate, how that experience was. So if you guys haven't already, I made a preliminary video on this before overall on how my attempts for each of the nodes went. So if you guys are interested, I'll put that below for your reference. But in today's video, we're going to be talking more so about, what it's going to take to actually have this big investment into Big Boy Apocalypse, as well as what you should consider before you pull the trigger on whether or not this is good for your account, and as well as ultimately your progression into the game. So having said that, let's get right to it. First and foremost, guys, what is required? Just as a quick recap, in order to even think about unlocking the Big Apocalypse, you have to have 23 characters in total, gear tier 17. That's also including the T2 ISO 8 Blue 5, which is probably the biggest bottleneck right now. I'm not going to be talking about that too much just because we all know that that's a constraint, and this has obviously been released through War, Cosmic Crucible, and events, but this is definitely one of the main bottlenecks before you can even consider pushing Baby Apocalypse to the big. But last but not least, you also need to have all of the Horseman sagas completed at the apocalyptic setting and stages. So as you can see, this is a screenshot of my account right now. I obviously didn't get this done because I only have the check mark on Morgan Le Fay's Pestilence Saga. Famine, War, and Death are still, waiting to be completed on my account. But, like I said, this is going to be what's best for your account and what's worked. At the end of the day, that's really what it's going to be coming down to in terms of the investment. So 23 characters, which includes the 4 Legendary Horseman teams. On top of that, the Strike team as well, which includes Deathpool, Spider Weaver, and as well as Kestrel. And we all know Kestrel's rework and update to her stats being part of that new Pegasus team. There is definite value there to ultimately lock her in as one of the Dark Dimension 6 characters. So really good information to have for sure. Now, why invest? Why do we want to invest and put all these resources into Big Apocalypse? Like, what's the end game here? Like, there has to be a reason if we're going to be doing this, right? And to help you understand, high level, he is a top 3 toon in the game. He's next to Super Skrull and Kang, probably number 2 or number 3 in the game, depending on how you view his value and what he can do. But he's essentially usable in all game modes, right? You're not going to find a lack of use for him if you do fully pull the trigger on Big Apocalypse. But having said that, he is also a Dark Dimension 6 required character, but also the baby version can get the job done. I say required because unless you guys have attempted the global nodes without Apocalypse, it's basically next to impossible and essentially a slugfest. It's going to take probably 15, 20 plus attacks to get through it, even with a really good team if you don't have Apocalypse. It was meant to have Apocalypse, so that's why I say required, because it was essentially designed with the player having in mind that they did invest in this character. And as well, what you're going to be ultimately getting from him is also he's part of the current arena team meta. And I say kinda in brackets because, to be honest, he's only there until you unlock Super Skrull. And I feel like Super Skrull can likely take Apocalypse's place, depending on how that works in terms of the team dynamic. So that's why I have it there. Right now, that's all I see, but that's only because a lot of players haven't unlocked Super Skrull yet. He can easily take Big Apocalypse's place once that happens. So just something to be mindful of. You guys are planning to go down that route. If you're expecting Apocalypse to be in the top 10, top 20 arena with the Secret Defenders, that might change very soon once, players actually do have access to Super Skrull and he becomes more of the mainstream unlock. And then lastly, why you probably want to invest in them is the value that's already invested in the previous teams, right? That's all the 4 Horseman teams. That's obviously the 3 Strike characters. This is essentially the end goal for having that completion task that started way back in 2022, which is essentially the entire age of Apocalypse and leading to his unlock earlier this year. So these are all the strong reasons for sure. Now let's consider the comparisons. Having this understanding now, what is going to be the net resource investment, comparing apples to apples, so you know exactly what you're putting in. So what I've done, guys, I've compiled this table here because, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's just honestly easier to just look at this and compare, what you're going to be needing, and as well, kind of the bottlenecks that I've seen players vocalize, but as well, bottlenecks that I have not seen as well. So I'm hoping to put all this information together here to give you guys a really good overview in return, and especially in regards to how this is going to impact your account overall. So let me first explain what's going on in each of the columns, and then we'll break it down top down. So on the far left with the big boy apocalypse, if you're going to be going down that route, what we've done here is we've populated the 23 characters, their cost of investment, right? So we have 68 million gold that's required to bring them all, obviously, to level 90, which is where the gear tier 17 is going to get equipped. This also includes the ABCs, which is the basic catalyst, 13,500, a very significant amount to bring them from 16 to 17. We also have the health catalysts, which is actually becoming a really strong bottleneck right now in the end game. If you guys have been consistently bringing characters to Dark Dimension 6, that's why it's on this chart. Focus catalyst, exactly the same boat as health, just as important, but we're seeing that through the recent events and milestones, we're just not getting the same ratios of these catalysts being rewarded back, as opposed to armor, resistance, damage. There's still a pretty healthy amount of those ones. Health and focus that you see here, basically the teal and the red one, they're the two that are the most important, because you definitely do need them as well. We're not seeing as much rewards coming out back to our account. And then lastly, this is the training materials that you're going to be utilizing to bring your characters up from obviously level 85 to 90, which is the gear tier 17 equipping requirement. So that's 6,200 in total to bring up all 23 characters to gear tier 17. That's what you're looking for in terms of cost. So even before you decide on bringing Big Apocalypse, quickly just check your account. Do you have all of these materials and resources ready to go? Because that's going to be the first question, right? Can you do it, first of all? In my second column in the middle, this is Baby Apocalypse. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to isolate what exactly it would take if we did not bring in the 23 characters, but instead we're focused on 5 Dark Dimension 6 characters that we want to bring in right away, and this, however, does not factor in Apocalypse. So first 5 characters in Dark Dimension 6 is going to cost about 21 million. That's from gear tier 17 to 18. So keep in mind, this was obviously exclusive of any of the previous investments, but I just wanted to compare what the net total damage would be. You can see here from 17 to 18, we're going to be requiring 7,600 basic catalysts. We're also going to be needing 2,700 health, 2,500 focus, and then lastly 2,100 training mats. And then in my last column here, this is just for strictly Apocalypse, so you can see what it actually takes him to go from gear tier 16 to 18. Alone, he costs 8 million gold. He needs about 1,600 basic catalysts, 740 health, 175 focus, and lastly 680 of the training materials to go from level 85 to 95. So there you guys have it. A brief overview of the investments, and yes, you are reading this correctly. If you are able to, bring in Big Apocalypse, we're gonna assume that he's part of the first five characters for Dark Dimension 6, and then as well as his push up here, it's gonna be almost 100 million gold as an initial investment to start Dark Dimension 6 with Big Apocalypse. So if you guys don't have 100 million gold right now in your account, then get ready for the grind, because that's what it's going to ultimately take, right? Secondly, just look at the materials that you're going to be needing now as a result of that. You'll be basically needing a bare minimum investment here of north of 21 to 22,000 basic catalysts. You'll need over 7,000 health, over 7,000 focus, and as well, well over 8,000, 9,000 of these training materials. That is what you're looking to invest in if you bring in Big Apocalypse. So now back to my conclusion, guys, and considerations. What's your goal in the game? You need to consider, at the end of the day, are you trying to get into Dark Dimension 6 as soon as possible? Is that what's important to you? Or is it more important to build up a top 10, top 20 arena team that includes Big Apocalypse? But keep in mind, like I said, remember the brackets I had earlier. He's going to be there pretty strong right now, but who's to say once Super Scroll comes out in more of a mainstream manner, more folks are unlocking him, well, he can quickly eclipse that value right there, right? So just something to be mindful of. Are you free to play, or are you spending in the game? Because that's obviously going to have a factor. The reason being is if you don't have a lot of resources or materials, if you're a spender, you likely would have covered that deficit with spending. Buying good offers for some of these materials that I've noted here, that's going to be a game-changing factor. If you're free to play, like myself, you probably won't be able to bring in Big Apocalypse into Dark Dimension 6 until you have everything built up. But even then, you might have Big Apocalypse ready to go, but then you might not have all the rest of the other resources to bring in 4 other characters ready for Dark Dimension 6. So it's just something to be mindful of. I'm currently just doing it all free to play right now in Dark Dimension 6 as possible. But like I said, I'm one of the few content creators that's completed the global section with just Baby Apocalypse. You know, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't anything that was game breaking by any means. But at the end of the day, it was more important to actually have, you know, a really good synergistic team with Apocalypse, even if he's a baby form, and to have that synergy and obviously have that dynamic to push through the nodes, as well as understanding the nodes and who to target. Lastly, guys, understand the bottlenecks in resource management. Big Apocalypse is an absolute huge investment into your account. By doing so, there's going to be some shortfalls that are going to result from that, right? I mean, I've seen people commented already how scarce their health and focus catalysts are, how scarce their training mats are. Well, you know, it's pretty obvious what happened here. It's because the big Apocalypse investment costed a lot to the account, and as you can see, even bringing 5 Dark Dimension 6 characters is equivalent to, you know, only half of the investments needed for big Apocalypse. So, for example, like if you look at right here, you know, 7,600 basic catalysts for 5 characters. An additional 14,000 to bring in the other 23, right? So that equates to basically another 10 characters that you can bring into Dark Dimension 6. So just something to be mindful of, right? That's kind of the shortfall you're giving into yourself. That's why you need to decide, you know, what is your goal in the game? Is it Dark Dimension? Is it Arena? Is it ultimately just getting a big Apocalypse to maximize the potency and the value you've earned from the Horseman teams? I'll leave that up to you guys, but at the end of the day, you know, being free to play myself, if it was up to me, if I had unlimited resources and as well, you know, like this was not a big issue for me, I would have 100%, I would have brought in big Apocalypse for the run. He would have made it easier for sure. But end of the day, I analyzed this before I entered, and I knew that I could not invest in those other 3 Horseman teams to bring in big Apocalypse into the Dark Dimension 6. Now I'm pretty much at the end of Cosmic, just wrapping up the final attacks here and entering City soon with the preparation for that. So that's kind of where I'm at. If I did not invest if I did invest in big Apocalypse and did not follow in through my current Dark Dimension 6 planning, I probably wouldn't have started Dark Dimension 6 yet. So it's just something to consider, right? It's one of my priorities in the game. I want to see how far I can go as free to play, especially Dark Dimension 6 still being newer. And that's why it's a big thing for me to try and get this done without big Apocalypse and ultimately get that, you know, that differential in comparison of how well he can do with or without the upgrade. So hope this video helps guide you guys along in terms of upgrading and what to expect for your investment. Hope this helps shed some light on what you can expect as well in the end game. Thank you as always. Do appreciate your guys' support, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.